Calling this wokeness at the end of the world. This is Shannon B. Douglas. I'm in the Thompson River District between Cache Creek and Kamloops, heading for Kelowna and the Okanagan to spend a few days talking to more people about the infiltration and impact of woke ideology on our school systems, our public education, our post-secondary schools, and our workplaces. Wokeness is affecting every aspect of our work lives and our educational lives. And it's time that we started becoming aware of it and talking about it. I'm extremely fortunate that in the work that I do, I can't be canceled. But far too many people in Canada are afraid to speak. And they either don't realize what a problem that is that they can't speak openly and freely in their workplaces and in their churches and in their schools and in their communities, or the impact of them speaking threatens their livelihood and they are effectively gagged. So I'm traveling across Canada. I'm talking to people about what's going on, and I'm documenting the trip as I go, making short 10-minute videos every day to talk about some aspects of this. I just came down from the Nass Valley, where on a slightly different subject, I met with an old friend of mine who's a Nisga'a carver, storyteller, and painter. He's a keeper of traditional knowledge by the name of George Mann. And George took me to a village in the Nisga'a territory on the other side of the Nass River that up until just a few decades ago had no bridge access to it. And he said that this was the last undomesticated village in the world. And when they put the bridge in, that completed the domestication of the Nisga'a people. Now, George was off grid for a number of years. I wrote a book inspired by conversations I had with him in the 90s. And he opened up concepts and ideas in me in terms of my academic studies of religion and mythology and storytelling that inspired me to write a book, Chasing Quicksilver. And I'm going to put more about my conversations and my time with George on my Chasing Quicksilver YouTube, Shannon Douglas, Chasing Quicksilver, where I talk more about psychology and archetypes and mythology and symbols and the importance of meaning in our lives. I spent a full day with George, and he gave me a tour of the Nass Valley and the various different places, the Fisheries Bay, where for centuries Nisga'a traditional people have harvested and processed oolakan, a rich, fat-rich fish, small fish that is processed into oolakan grease and fat that forms a part of their diet and their healthy, their relationship with food and their environment. Now, George only got a cell phone in the last year or so, and he doesn't actually have a plan, but we connected through Facebook when I reached out to see if I could get comment from him on the book that I wrote, Chasing Quicksilver. And it happened that I had the opportunity with a car in BC and some time and the ability here at the end of the pandemic to travel up to the Nass Valley to see my old friend George, who I haven't seen in 25 years, and to learn from him and to get some feedback from him on some of the ideas that I developed. And I learned partway through the day that one of his daughters, 12 years old, also got a cell phone in the last while, and now is no longer speaking to him. She has identified herself, or what he understood was that she was a lesbian, but she has identified herself as trans and has asked to be called by a different name, and is very upset and is rejecting George as a parent. And while he's been away working in the traditional food harvest, she's been going deeper and deeper into the internet. We know from various statistics that Indigenous children are unfortunately disproportionately affected by this cult, by this pseudo-religion, by this by this idea, this pernicious and abusive concept that we can, and frankly delusional idea that we can change our sex. And kids are being sold on this, and they're being bullied into it online. Helena Kirshner, who is increasingly getting a broader and broader audience, talking about her experience with the trans ideology and how she was sucked into it, being a straight white girl, and in many ways bullied and manipulated into group think and a cult-like behavior. And young Indigenous girls are being sucked into this, and boys who are vulnerable, and in unprecedented numbers. 30, 40, 50. We're hearing some reports, U.S. college survey from 2021 September, 100 times the number of gender nonconforming women in universities and colleges in the United States over just 15 years ago. Something is deeply, deeply wrong. And my friend George lives at the end of the world, at the very last frontier of encroachment of technology and the modern world, and he lives a traditional and simple life, and yet his daughter here, where never in the memory and in the oral traditions and in the stories of his people, nor after 30 years of study myself into global religious traditions and mythology, is there any representation of any significance whatsoever of children deciding that they can be the opposite sex and being transitioned into through medical means. It's absolutely horrifying. I'm devastated that my friend's child is like me, father of rapid onset gender dysphoria, natal female. My name is Shannon B. Douglas. This is While We Were Asleep.